Okay, hello Anastasia Phillips. Before we talk about your movie Tammy is Always Dying, please tell us about what you're doing to stay busy during this unprecedented time.
Ha. Well, I have been very busy actually because I help my husband make wine. We have a wine label, and we have just been bottling our last year's vintage so that it can be ready for sale coming this spring. And that's been actually quite a bit of work. And we also bought a farmhouse north of Toronto in a town called Creemore. And we've been staying up here, and there's like maybe 40 different garden beds, not to mention an enormous vegetable patch that just requires so much work. So I have been working harder than I probably would if it wasn't for this time, for this unprecedented pandemic that we find ourselves living through.
Wow, yeah, most people are just binge watching Netflix, so it looks like you're actually you're doing some stuff.
Yeah, I'm doing
All
some
right,
stuff. Yeah.
I
What are you
dig it.
doing?
I'm just trying to produce a radio show from home instead of at a station, and I'm also an essential worker, so I work in a grocery store. So I'm still kind of
Oh,
I'm staying busy too. I'm doing things as well. But
thank you. Thank you for your essential work. I appreciate it
yes,
greatly.
I appreciate the appreciation. So take me back to your reaction the first time you read the script for Tammy is Always Dying.
Well, actually, the first time I remember before I even read the script, I was in France and I was going for a walk, and I was walking through this like mystical wood, and I felt like this beautiful sweet breeze. I'm not even lying. I know it sounds so romantic and sentimental, but like there was just this beautiful sweet breeze that blew through, and I had this moment of like quiet, and I knew that something had just sort of like come to me. And I came home, and there was the script in my email, and I read it, and I was completely riveted and amazed that someone, Joanne Sarrazin, had managed to make a story out of a woman who essentially doesn't have a story. And the fact that she was able to turn addiction and codependency and terminal illness into a black comedy with these like one liners that are so poignant and deep and rich. So um, that's that's where I was, and that's what happened. And I sort of just feel like the entire process happened in a way that felt like um, quite preordained, or just it just felt like effortless. I read the script, I knew I was Catherine and I was going to play the role, and then everything else just sort of fell into place.
Wow, that's a pretty surreal story.
Right.
Uh,
I know it doesn't always happen like that, believe me.
I like it. I like it. It was meant to happen. So,
Yeah.
what was the tone like during the shoots? Because, like you said, it's a dark comedy, and it's kind of hard to know where the comedy or the darkness begins or ends. So, what was the tone like making this thing?
Ooh, good question. It was um I would say that it was sort of like this live wire that everybody was just trying to kind of harness. It wasn't an easy shoot. There was no time to kind of goof around and, play pranks on each other because, our shoot schedule was incredibly tight. Not to mention it was like really cold in Hamilton at the time. So like, you're conserving a lot of your energy to be on for the couple takes that you're going to get for each scene. And I do remember coming home after those shoot dates being like, I'm done. I don't know how I'm going to do it again tomorrow. Um, but also sleeping like a baby because it was like very cathartic. It was very cathartic to do the shoot. And but yeah, so it wasn't like, it wasn't a silly fun time by any means. Um, but I've had a lot more challenging shoots. The camaraderie amongst the the team involved, particularly, like just the Amy Jo and Joanne, myself, Felicity, Jessica Adams, the young female producer, Karen Wookie and Marty Katz also. Just like there was just this like warm. Oh, and Harry Cherniak, one of the producers actually. He invited me after we filmed to teach an acting class in Uganda for his. He has a nonprofit there called United in Film, and so I did that. I spent January in Uganda teaching acting, and it's just an example to show you the kind of warmth and generosity of spirit that was involved in this film. So that was a
Wow.
really nice place to be with. Yeah, be in.
Do you know about Wakaliwood in Uganda?
Do
Did
I
you know
know
that
that?
they make action comedies in Uganda it is called Wakaliwood? Have you heard of that
No,
before?
I
Yeah. Oh,
haven't.
there's something on
No.
YouTube. It's pretty cool.
Oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
That's funny. I could see that because I have to say, like, my acting class there was so like the sense of humor is so
Yeah.
wicked. It's so deep
Hmm.
and just like life affirming, and I absolutely fell in love with everyone that I met there. So that was
Yeah, their movie Crazy World was the closing Midnight Madness movie at TIFF, so it's
uh,
pretty cool.
okay.
Yeah.
I've gotta check it out. Thank you for
Th-
that tip.
no problem. So, okay, fun little diversion. Is Felicity Huffman a fun person to work with? She's almost unrecognizable in this role.
She is she is unrecognizable. She had a couple different sets of fake teeth made, I think. She prepared quite intensely for the role.
Mm,
Prior to, I think she had about uh, maybe 5 months before we hit camera, whereas I think I had maybe, I don't know, 3 weeks or something, ludicrously short by comparison, but obviously
mm,
didn't have to transform nearly as much. I really like Felicity because she suffers no fools. She wastes no time. She asks very well considered, direct questions. She wants to make the best film possible. Our time off camera when on occasion we went out and shared a bite to eat or had a drink after a long week of filming, or so we had some nice opportunities to talk as women, and I really loved that time. I really loved her company and enjoyed getting to know her story, and you know um, yeah. So on set, very professional. Off set, really delightful actually to share time with. So
what do you think about method acting? Is that something you do? Is it weird? What do you think about it?
um I think I don't know how people do it. Like I can't imagine sitting at the lunch table and like speaking in my dialect. But I do know that that was one thing that maybe I observed with Felicity when she had a couple very intense emotional scenes. She was naturally more withdrawn, much less available. You do. I understand now. It's so it's so exhausting to be in that ever ready state of waiting for action to play incredibly emotional scenes in a role that's so different to who you might naturally be, that you really have to stay in the zone. And I think method acting is just staying in the zone. And it may seem impolite not to have small talk around the craft table or with other crew members, but it isn't, it's nothing personal. It's just the actor trying to, I think, protect themselves emotionally so that they can be where they need to be in that very short amount of time where they're expected to perform. So I I get it. I get it. I didn't need to do it in this film. I wonder if one day there will be an occasion where I feel like I absolutely can't break character. Um, but I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, that sums it up
That
nicely. So,
I rambled
yeah,
long enough.
no, it was beautiful. You have wonderful musings. What are the differences between working on TV and film?
Oh, well, when you have a small budget on a film, you're it usually it just means you have to work uh, at the same pace, but with like, you know, 1000% more depth. So I think that in other, on other film shoots where we've had maybe a little bit more luxury of time and money, it feels like just a much more sane pace in terms of trying to actually create art. In this instance, we didn't have a lot of extra resources. So you are you are required to really do a lot of work on your own, drill down into things. Uh,
Cool.
I would say that it's a question of depth.
Mm.
Film requires a lot more depth and specificity.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. Is there a genre you haven't worked in that you would just love to try out?
Ooh, I kind of wouldn't mind playing like a pirate or a cowboy, like a
Ooh.
western or a. I like these. I don't know. I love these like sort of more not androgynous, maybe like more typically male dominated
Mm-hmm.
uh, roles. Uh, I I don't know why yeah, I guess I have to go with that, a pirate or a cowboy. So a western or a fantasy film.
Oh, well, I heard Disney's getting rid of Johnny Depp. Maybe you could be Jane Sparrow or something.
Wow, I will start
Hey,
working on it. Yep, yeah.
there you go. Okay. So you have a major in philosophy. I thought that was really interesting. And do you find that having that background gives you an insight into your characters in a different sort of way?
Ah, I think it makes me take the work very seriously so
Mm.
that I really do I want to feel like I'm doing some kind of a service. I really I know that just entertaining is also a service. Um,
Hmm.
but I like to think that there's something I can learn, people can learn in trying on or empathizing with a different person for a couple of hours. But I do remember when I was trying to make the decision of whether I should act or not, and I was in university, and I remember being in the library trying to scour it for books on the philosophy of acting. Like I
Hmm.
needed to know that this was like a legitimate thing that I could engage with, that like that had value, that
Hmm.
I could respect. And I never found a book. I never found that book. Still making it up as I go along.
I like it. That's funny. Okay, so Anastasia Phillips, thank you very much for your time. Before I let you go, do you have any profound insights to keep people afloat mentally during this difficult period?
Yes, I do. Go buy some Jiffy Pods
Okay.
online or at Home Depot and plant some seedlings, because there's nothing more delightful than watching something grow from literally just, sunlight and water. And it will help you mark the days. And by the end of it, you might even have something delicious to eat.
Wow, that's incredible. Well, thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.